We live? All right. Hey, now we're gonna go ahead and kick off this city council meeting. It is November 25th, 2 days before Turkey Day. And at 6 p.m., we are down at the mill and we're live and we are as well recording this and we'll later publish it on our YouTube channel. So with that, I would ask all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's do. Okay, we want to do the oath before the roll. Paul, excellent. So we have a great opportunity tonight to swear in a new council member, Nathan Packard. So a little history on his position. His position is the former council member Marcus Tadgett, who passed away earlier in the spring, unfortunately, and we replaced him with a former council member, Kurt Hill, great guy, and I haven't had a chance to shake his hand and thank him for stepping up and filling in the role for a couple of months while we had an election to see who was going to fill the spot, and the voters voted for Nathan Packard. So we have him. We are going to swear him in. And the cool thing about it is I know he's got a bunch of family here. If you know me, I'm a big family dude. So with that, Nathan, let's swear you in. Is there any, want the family around you? What do you want to do?
We'll do just you and me, and then we'll add them for the picture.
Let's do it. All right, Nathan. Raise your right hand for me. I, Nathan Packard.
I, Nathan Packard,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the
and
Constitution
the laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Washington
of the state of Washington
and the laws and ordinances
and the laws and
of the
ordinances
city of Lake
of
Stevens,
the city of Lake Stevens,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties
the duties
of the office of City of Lake Stevens Council Position Number 7,
the city of Lake Stevens, council position number 7,
according to the law.
according to the law.
To the best of my ability.
Yes, my ability.
Congratulations.
Sure, yeah, so my wife is here, she'll stand up, this is Talisha.
Yeah.
My two sons, Owen and Tanner,
Yeah.
senior and junior in high school. Taryn is in 7th grade, Ainsley is in 5th grade, and then my in-laws are here, I'll have them come up as well.
Yeah.
This is Elvin and Pamela Berry.
Very cool. Eldon and Ashley. I will talk stop.
Put your finger down and then you there. There you go.
Gotta switch to pano mode.
Right, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, very cool. Yes, I'll have you.
At least you got some oil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part, sorry.
Thank you. All right, very exciting, very cool. I know Nathan has put in a lot of time prepping for this position and well-deserved nod by the voters on you. Appreciate it, Nathan.
Thank you.
So with that, we can do a full roll call. Let's do it.
Starting with Councilmember Packard,
Present.
Councilmember Donahue,
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad. Here. Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
Councilmember Peter Sagan,
Present.
Councilmember Shipman,
Present.
Councilmember Daughtry.
Present.
All right, we got all set there. Very cool. Great. Council President, can we get an agenda, please?
Yes, all right. Everyone has had a chance to look at the agenda and there are no changes. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, you have an agenda.
Excellent, appreciate it. Okay, our first item on the agenda is going to be guest business, and we've got the mighty Terry Peterson from Snow 911 to give us a brief on where all our Snow 911 money goes.
Yes, thank you. Hello, all. Terry Peterson here, Deputy Director of Snohomish County 911. And with me is my boss, the Executive Director, Kurt Mills, who's going to kick off the presentation. And I'm going to go ahead. I just sent a request to see if I could share my screen. We do have a PowerPoint slide deck that we would like to share, if that's okay. There we go. Thank you. So give me 1 second, get things situated.
Yeah, well, he's getting that lined up. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us today to give a little background on the agency and how we operate, and really appreciate this opportunity a couple of days before Thanksgiving. So as Terry mentioned, I'm Kurt Mills. I'm the Executive Director of the agency, and Terry is number 2 Deputy Director, and we appreciate this opportunity. I thought I would start just with a little bit of background for folks that may not know exactly what we do. And so a little bit about your county 911 agency. We support all the local police, fire, EMS agencies in the county. We do the 911 and non-emergency call processing. We handle all the police, fire, and medical dispatching. All those are pretty traditional emergency communication services. But in addition to that, we also administer the radio system that's used by all police and fire. There's 22 sites all around the county. And we host and manage the core public safety software. So our computer-aided dispatch system, the mobile computer, the record system, and the correction software. And then in addition to that, there's a pretty long list of ancillary services that we provide. We have a managed laptop program to support some agencies that don't have their own IT infrastructure. We provide enhanced police records for some of our law agencies, and just a number of other different programs, including making sure that the radios that police and fire and our agency all use are maintained and always ready. We have a shared governance model. So we have a 15-member board. It's comprised of all of our member agencies, elected officials, and chief officers. We're fortunate enough to have Lake Stevens Chief Bezziso as a board member and the chair of our personnel committee. And a little bit about our funding. You can see there, it's mostly from 4 different sources. There's the E911 excise tax. So when you pay your cell phone bill, you'll see that little tax on the invoice every month, from the emergency communications sales tax that was passed in 2018, from fire assessments and police assessments. And then we get a little bit from some of our contract agencies and some other income. And for those who aren't familiar, the shared service model is really a way of ensuring the highest quality of service at the lowest cost. So we pool resources and technology when it makes sense, and ensure interoperability across the different platforms. For a little comparison, down in King County, there are 11 911 agencies. Up here in Snohomish County, we just have 1. So we are able to focus our energy on providing one level of service throughout the county. And we have a couple of little slides. I know it might be a bit of an eye chart for you. This is also available in our annual report that we publish every year. We are the 2nd largest 911 center in the state of Washington. We handle about 1,500 to 2,000 calls per day. We strive to achieve the NENA call answer standard, and you can see on the right-hand side our statistics. We're doing pretty good. That really is focused on how quickly we answer incoming 911 calls. We don't want people to stay on hold, so that's a point of pride for us. And you can see a little bit more about the call volume from each one of our agencies, including Lake Stevens Police Department. just a few milestones, a final background slide. Back in 2018, the remaining two 911 centers in the county, Snowpack and Snowcom, consolidated. We formed Snohomish County 911. The same year, the RFP for the radio program that Terry's going to talk about here in a second was issued. In 2019, the emergency communication sales tax was approved. Then in 2019, Snow 911 merged with SERS. That was the Snohomish County Emergency Radio System. Very small group with a really important job. And we all became one happy family. The radio project kicked off in 2019, and we're quite relieved. In May of this year, we cut over on the new radio system, as well as moved into our new facility in Everett. And with that, I'll hand it over to Terry.
Thanks, Kurt. And for those of you that don't know, the reason why Proposition 1 was passed by the voters back in 2018 is to fund and replace the end-of-life radio system. The radio system that was in use prior to going live back in May was about 20 years old. It was we couldn't get spare parts. In fact, SERS, that former agency prior to merger, they were buying parts off of eBay. I remember they bought literally a pallet of parts off of eBay to keep the old system up and running. So thankfully, the voters did approve that sales tax initiative back in 2018. It was enacted in 2019, and that's what funded this new radio project that we just went live with. But it also funds the future radio system and the ongoing repair and maintenance of this system. So we're starting to put dollars away for the next generation radio system that is scheduled to be replaced in maybe 10 or 15 years down the road. And I'll show you exactly how that works in some detailed slides here in a second, but that's just a little bit of background about the old system and the new system and what's going on there. It is probably just interesting to you perhaps that Lake Stevens Police, as part of Snow 911 and as part of that large radio project, did receive 84 new radios. That's valued at about $500,000 if you were to go out and buy those yourself. And the reason why we highlight that is because working together, we're able to, drive down costs, we're able to buy things more efficiently, and we're able to save dollars from individual agency budgets. So these are dollars that you don't have to budget or you didn't have to budget and spend yourself as an individual city. So where we're at with the existing radio project, as Kurt mentioned, we did go live in May. It's been very successful. Here's a little snapshot on the overall project budget. The good news is we think that we are going to underspend this project, which is fantastic. You don't often hear that from government agencies. But I think the project team did a really fantastic job in trying to keep costs down, keep control over escalating costs and things like that. So I'm really proud of the team for doing that. And so now that we've gone live and we're sort of wrapping up that project, there's still a lot of work going on behind the scenes that people don't see. We're decommissioning the old system, pulling off equipment off of the old radio sites and stuff like that. But we're shifting away from project focus and into future focused and making sure that we've got adequate funds to maintain and refresh the new system and pay for that future system. We did recently put together a community impact report. We do get questions from time to time. People are like, where can I learn about how much sales tax is being collected and where those dollars are going? And so we did put together a report. This was the first time that we did it. It's still in review by our board. We're hoping that they approve that next month, and then we'll publish that on our website. But I did take a pie chart out of that draft report and just put it on the slide deck today. And it's the one on the right-hand side of the screen. And basically that shows of the sales tax revenue that's been collected when it started in 2019 through 2024, where those dollars have gone. And you can see the two sort of blue shaded sections of the pie chart here are all radio. So 60% of the dollars so far went to that radio project that we just went live with. And 21% are sitting in the bank account for that next generation radio system. And then the green and the orange, there's the future facility project that Kurt just talked about. And then 13% of that revenue has been offsetting or supporting Snow 911 operations. And every dollar that supports Snow 911 operations is a dollar less that member agencies contribute through assessments. So this is hopefully the last eye chart that we've included in the presentation, and I'll talk a little bit about the sausage making for a second, and then I'll give you kind of the takeaways to think about when you're looking at this. So this is our 15-year forecast, and we're forecasting the sales tax revenues over 15 years, and we're forecasting the major project expenditures and the major and the savings that we want to have, for the next generation radio system. So it's revenue at the top, it's all radio stuff, radio expenditures in the middle, and then offsetting some Snow 911 operational costs down, in the third group there. The thing that I focus on when I look at this and how I can tell if we're doing good from a planning perspective or not, just fiscally and financially, is I look at that ending fund balance, which is kind of down here. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse or not, but the ending fund balance line item, off in the future, it's starting to get in the red just a little bit, but it quickly comes back into the black. And this is the indicator that, with a stable forecasted revenue and with everything that's happening with the expenditures, with projects over the years, we know that we're not overestimating, or we're not, let me say it this way, we're not planning to overspend the tax dollars that are coming into the project. And there's a lot going on in here. There's a $92 million future radio system planned for 2037, with an option to incrementally replace the subscriber equipment at $32 million in year 2031. So that's the sausage making. And here's the kind of summary of what you just saw. So the ECSF sales tax revenue is focused on the long-term support of the existing radio system. We've got an agreement with Motorola. Motorola is a primary contractor, the primary provider, to come out and essentially upgrade the system every 2 years. What we don't want to do is get ourselves in a situation where we were with the last system, which is we bought it 20 years ago, we let the thing age out and waited until it was breaking to replace it. We don't want to do that again. So Motorola will come out every 2 years and essentially refresh and upgrade the system. We've budgeted to replace the dispatch consoles in 2027. There's 3 additional radio sites that are budgeted for future coverage needs if needed. We don't actually think those are going to be needed. We've been operating since May. We're doing some study and analysis, and the coverage is pretty darn good. So we'll probably end up reallocating those to the next generation project. And then, there's continued support for Snow 911 operation to offset Snow 911 operations, and there's an adjustment for inflation. And then there's some debt repayment for the existing radio project and our future facility bonds. So that's what you saw in the sausage making slide a second ago. And I know that's a tremendous amount of information, and I'm not sure exactly what the questions were about the sales tax revenue, but could I answer any questions at this time about the radio project or the ECSF sales tax?
Hey, Terry, what would the Prop 1, is that an indefinite sales tax increase, or do the voters have to reapprove that after a time frame?
They approved it in continuation, so there is no sunset.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions for Terry? Kurt?
And I guess that was I just wanted to pause there and give you an opportunity for questions. Kurt does want to talk about the real-time intelligence center part of Snow 911, which is kind of a newer initiative. So we've got maybe just 3 or 4 more slides.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's a great asset you guys are putting together.
Okay, so if there's no questions on that, I'll turn it back over to Kurt.
Yep. Well, great. Thank you. The RTIC, we call it, the Real-Time Intelligence Center. It's a manner of which agencies can pool information and share information and be a little bit more efficient in how we do that. It actually, in the olden days, was something that dispatchers were slow enough that they were able to help with a little bit. But now as technologies advance and we become busier, there's kind of a need to bring this together as separate programs. So we're in a pilot phase of an RTIC, and we are staffing it right now a couple days a week. And it's a way for us to leverage some of the technology that's already out in the field, help support our agencies, and thinking back to that shared service model, a way that we can do it at a countywide level instead of each agency going out and doing their own thing independently, which inevitably will cost more money and present some interoperability aspects. What is the RTIC? It's really about 3 different things. It's the sensors, so license plate readers, body worn cameras, things like that. Drones as first responders. It's kind of interesting. Back in August, we did a pilot project. We've invited some of the vendors out, and for a week, agencies and Snow 911 flew drones to different scenes to support responses, and the results were really quite remarkable. A number of wins just by the ability to get eyes over a scene quickly. Some of that is about making responders more efficient, because sometimes the way things are reported changes by the time that responders get there. So you get a drone over the scene and see, okay, that vehicle's not blocking traffic. It's pulled off into a parking lot, and we can prioritize that appropriately. I'll tell you a really interesting story. We had a individual in a wheelchair on a bike path who somehow drove off into a blackberry thicket, and they were barely visible. And we got a 911 call. The person didn't have an exact location, so fire responded to the scene, but couldn't find the person. And we had the drone overhead, and because of that perspective, we were able to find the person, redirect the fire crews. They were able to initiate a rescue, and the person was okay. But it just gives you a perspective about how powerful that extra set of eyes in the air can be. And then the platforms, they call that a single pane of glass. It's really about bringing all these different information sources into one platform that we can all see. And because we support our agencies and the technology is advanced where it is today, the beautiful thing about it is we might be at the heart of it at the dispatch center, but any of our agencies that's authorized can log in and see the exact same thing, share information, regardless of whether they're at the center or in Lake Stevens or anywhere else in the county. So we have established a leadership team comprised of representatives from law enforcement primarily, and yeah, we're looking to maybe kick this into the next phase in the first quarter of next year. And as I mentioned today, right now we're just doing 2 days a week, but we might look to up staff a little bit more and do it more frequently. And with that, I'll end by just saying there is a lot of information on our website for the council, the mayor, the public. We publish an annual report. The community impact report that Terry talked about hopefully will be posted next month. And just a lot of information that's available if anybody wants to learn more about our agency. And with that, I would open it up to any questions.
You guys, questions?
With all the controversy about the flock cameras, I noticed up there that you had license plate alerts. Is your agency subject to public records request?
We are, just like anybody else, subject to public records requests. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy about flock. I guess what I would say about that is one thing that I was really appreciative of is I got to join the police chiefs group as they talked about this, and there's a strong effort here to ensure that everybody's playing by the right rule book and that we're consistent with how we share information across agencies, and that's moving forward. So it's unfortunate that there's been some controversy, but I feel like the folks in our county are working really hard to try to make sure that privacy is given its due consideration, and this tool is available to those authorized folks who need it.
I was going to say, likewise with the drones, same thing. Are they subject to public records requests?
Absolutely.
How do we assure, is there anything in place to assure privacy with those?
Well, right now, the city of Everett Police are the only ones who have an active drone program. We did a pilot back in August. But yeah, just like a body worn camera that a police officer wears, all that information is subject to public records, and there are tools to help ensure that that information can be shared within the framework of the public record laws of our state.
Anything else for Snow 911, guys? If you haven't had a chance, go down and take a tour of their new facility. It's very, very impressive, especially from where they came from, South Precinct. The new facility is really, really cool. We might even take an opportunity in the future to maybe see if we can't use one of your conference rooms for a city council retreat. Might be a really good opportunity to get you all in there and take a look at it, see what it looks like.
Absolutely, Mayor.
Anything else?
Mayor, this is Chief Aziza. May I say just a couple words?
Yeah, I didn't know you were on.
Yeah, I had a little technical difficulty trying to get on, but I just want to thank Kurt and Terry and their staff. They're our lifeline on the other end of the radio, and they do an outstanding job. This has been a wonderful partnership. I sit on the board, I sit on the personnel committee, and they do an excellent job managing the funds, making sure the operation is flawless, and they continue to work hard for us. And so I just want to publicly say thank you for the job you guys do and keeping us safe.
Thank you so much, Chief. That means a lot coming from you, sir, and we appreciate the city allowing you to serve and your leadership with our agency. It feels good that our governance is comprised of all of our member agencies, and I feel like we've got a great board and a great number of groups coming together to try to do what's right for the county.
Yep. Anything else? Great. Well, I would like to, as we close, again, just thank you guys. I know that I've been on the receiving end on a lot of views of how Snow 911 has helped in my career and life, and in the safety of our citizens, and in interactions with even now my son, who's an Everett police officer. So I appreciate all the work you guys do in keeping our great officers safe, and it's truly done through a great dispatcher system who are truly behind the scenes heroes in our law enforcement efforts. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Very kind words. Appreciate it, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
All right, let's move forward to citizens' comments. We're going to open up the floor to citizens' comments and start online. Is there anybody online who wishes to provide citizen comments?
If anyone online would like to address council, please raise your digital hand and I can bring you in. Nope, I don't see anyone.
Okay, great. We'll go in person, and we have a green sheet from Ray. Welcome. Ray, you're up to the podium. All right, Ray, take 3 minutes.
Okay,
Tell us what you're thinking.
okay, I'm Ray Welk. I live up on 117th. And I'm here to speak about a project that's already in the works that I understand it's a done deal. The window of discussion's long past, but I have a few things to say about it anyway. And I'm talking about the over here on the corner, the 4- and 5-story buildings. And I had put a post online about 4 days ago, and vast majority of the people that responded don't know that that's even happening, that it's a done deal, that it was approved years ago. And I have to say the new council, I'm sure, is going to hear about it because it's going to be built in their time, but it's on you guys, in my opinion. The Growth Management Act Comprehensive Plan of 2024 to 44 doesn't necessarily make this a good plan. You know, I didn't know about it. I admit I only found out about it recently. The comprehensive plan has long paragraphs about growth, Lake Stevens planning, economic development for downtown, Lake Stevens Center, and industrial center, staying current with laws of the state. Transportation mentions Vision 2050. So are we waiting another 25 years to have transportation improvements? Section 8, pages 22 to 24 talk about projects in the works, the roundabouts on 204 and 9, and then 9 and South Lake Stevens Road, both already completed, and then a roundabout here on Main Street and 20th. Is that it? I mean, that's all I could find. Seems like there ought to be more. Wouldn't it be nice to have the road improvements in place before traffic increases? The map on page 833 shows figure 812, future 2044 weekday PM peak hour intersection level of service with improvements, and they all show green. And with the traffic that and the population that we have already, I mean, from at 3 o'clock to 6 from south of Lundin to 92, it's bumper to bumper all the time. And 20th going out is bad in the afternoon. So one last thing about the big building over here. In here, I on goal 2.3, applying the comprehensive plan.
That's 3 minutes.
2.3.3 says encourage infill development on suitable vacant parcels and redevelopment of underutilized parcels. Ensure that the height, bulk, and design of the infill and redevelopment projects are compatible with their surroundings.
All right, thank you,
Rest the
Ray.
case.
And I don't have anybody else in with green sheets, so let's move forward to council business, council president.
All right, thank you. So I'll go ahead and start with myself, but really quick before I begin, we're gonna do something a little atypical with the holiday season coming up. Just wanted to, if everyone could quickly go through and if they know they're gonna be unavailable for any meetings, to go ahead and let Caitlin know, just so we can schedule, coordinate, make sure we have quorums, everything. I myself will be unable to attend next Tuesday on the 2nd due to a family commitment. So with that, I attended the planning commission meeting last week. The two big items were public hearings. First one was on process code phase 1, which ultimately all the changes the planning commission approved with some minor amendments. So I expect that will be coming to us eventually. And then the second one, the public hearing for code revisions regarding traffic impact mitigation fees. They actually decided to hold that one open so they could receive some additional information from the staff. Once that's all cleared up, then they will make their decision about forwarding it on to us. So just go ahead and go down the line.
Okay, after the last meeting, I attended some CT committee meetings, executive board meeting and finance committee meeting. And then on Saturday, I helped to set up and helped to tear down and finished last night on Festival of Trees. That was impressively hard to put on and do, but it was a great event for the food bank. The people that put that together did a really good job, and I understand that they're already approved to go for 2 more years. So that'll be great.
Any availability issues in the coming month or so, or?
I never miss a meeting.
Okay, I didn't expect you to start now. Councilmember Peters Hagan.
Yes, last Wednesday, we had a utility committee meeting, which Councilmember Donahue and I attended. Discussion about the rate increase ensued. Today at the Board of Directors meeting for the sewer district, they did approve resolution 1098, I believe it is, which increases your sewer rate up to $120 a month. Added to the $7.20 utility tax, the new monthly fee for sewer service in the city of Lake Stevens will be $127.20.
So will that help pay for the benefits package that the sewer commissioners voted themselves?
I would hope so.
Okay.
I would hope so.
I was gonna say, you're gonna want to add a service tax if you're on auto pay too. If you're using a card at all and you're
Credit
paying
card.
online. Yeah, there's also processing fees on top of that.
That wasn't discussed.
Didn't they start that discussion at like 107? How did they get to the 120? Because a month ago they were at 107.
There was a debate as to if they were going to do it all at once or over a series of years, a little bit at a time versus all at once. My guess is with the increasing costs that are incurred, inflation, things of that sort. You know, I don't think this is the end of it. Sewer district has a lot of deferred maintenance. We went through the list of lift stations last Wednesday. You know, those, once they're fixed, you know, they go back on the list eventually. I mean, I can't speak for the sewer district, but that was kind of I guess the groundwork of it. It's either increase a little bit every year or do it all at once and then not have any increases. I guess the puzzling thing is they did do a $13 increase in 23, which is fairly recent. And now we got another $20 increase here 3 years later. So anyway, that's what's happening at the sewer district. Regarding the Festival of Trees, that took place this Saturday, and yes, you're right, Councilmember Daughtry, that took a lot of effort. The genesis of that was a group of volunteers that got together and said, what can we do for the food bank and make an impact? There was a lot of planning involved in that number of months. And it was a bigger success than what they thought. They raised about $80,000 or $90,000 for the food bank. And through that success, they were going to continue, like you say, for hopefully the next couple of years and make an annual event out of this. It's a very positive thing for the community to get together a group of people that weren't asked to do this by anybody. There was a group of ladies, for the most part, that got together and said, what can we do for this community in a positive fashion? And I think, you know, I think you attended the afternoon. It was open to the community for the kids and so forth. A couple hundred kids showed up. I had to run up and get another 135 cookies.
It was you. You were the one that saved the cookies. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Higgins.
But yeah, exactly. It stole all of them. But again, a very positive experience for the community. And I'm going to make a commentary here because it's the positive of that event is in direct contrast to the negative bullshit that is on Facebook and Lake Stevens community page, especially at election time. The amount of unfounded accusations that were posted on those formats are utterly ridiculous. Council members that were being paid off, putting money in their pockets, the lack of transparency from this council, it's utter nonsense. And it's such a negative for this community. I wish people would turn their energy into positive stuff because it's a real drag. And I don't know what to do about it, but I think to call it out is probably the best thing at this point. It's bullshit, absolute bullshit. Don't use those words lightly, but this community can do way better than what's been going on this past election timeframe.
So I would compound on that, Gary, and say all those pounding away on the keyboard, I didn't see them there this weekend.
No, nobody shows up.
Nobody shows up.
They claim they're involved in the community. They're absent everything.
Agreed.
Absent from everything.
And you'll note that not a single one of them is on the donation for the Lake Stevens Food Bank. You can look on there, but I can tell you that 4 members sitting here on the council right now made significant financial contributions on top of their donations of time to help make that a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can say my kids thoroughly enjoyed it. So like you said, well done to the people who put that on because it was a great event and the kids loved it.
Yep.
So to follow that, any availability considerations Kayla needs to know about, or
Pardon?
any availability considerations, holiday plans that we just need to, like I said, trying to coordinate schedules?
No, I'll be on Zoom the next week or the middle of December.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shipman.
Okay, first I'll start with the conflicts. There's none that I know of, so I should be available. I wanted to make a comment on how amazing all the lights look downtown. When I was driving down today, it seems like they're putting up a little bit more every day, and you can't help but drive through downtown Lake Stevens and feel festive. I tell people all the time, when I drive down Main Street, year round, I feel like I'm on vacation. Like it has a very kind of resorty, festive kind of feel. I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it. I mean, I love the grocery shopping across the street, their whole ambiance. And now we've got the mill, and we're going to be getting our museum and restaurant, hopefully. And so, it all comes together, and a lot of it's what Gary's saying. It all comes together, and I get this sense of belonging when I drive down Main Street. So I just want to give a shout out. I don't know, is it the Parks Department that puts all the lights up? They do a beautiful job, and it makes me smile every time I drive downtown when it starts to get dark and you can see them. I also attended and worked the Festival of Trees Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. These two gentlemen sitting next to me are extremely humble, so I'm going to call out their wives for them. They were instrumental in this happening, especially Jeannie Petershagen and also Christine Egelstaff, who used to be the owner of Ace Hardware until recently. And they are huge philanthropists within Lake Stevens. Kim Daughtry's wife, Debbie, is quiet and unassuming, one of the sweetest people you will ever meet, but she is a force for that food bank. And these women came together and they approached me and asked me if I would help. And I said, of course. And I had limited time, but absolutely. And they came together, and this was a 10-month project that everybody involved in it volunteered their time. We had businesses volunteering in-kind donations, so the things they were selling and those types of things. We had tree sponsors. We had people decorating trees. I mean, all these tons of people were coming together to make this thing happen. And I've never been to a festival of trees, so I really wasn't sure what to expect. And so this is my takeaway from this. First of all, what an amazing community we live in, that all of these people came together to do this just because they wanted to help the food bank, just because. They all work, they all have personal lives, they all have other commitments, and they step forward and they're doing all this as they're watching their spouses being trashed on social media. So Gary, thank you for speaking up. That's pretty much been an elephant in the room here the last month. But aside from that, wow, what an amazing event. So I'll share a few more numbers from that event because it was so amazing. My heart was just overwhelmed. Within the first hour, we had 100 little miniature gingerbread houses. And within the first hour, they were all gone. They had all been decorated. So they were all set up on tables with decorations. And that's how huge of an early turnout we had of families. Because within the first hours, 100 of them were gone. I think we were over 300 cookies that were decorated by littles. The Creator Zone had ornaments, and I think they did about 200 ornaments. We had Mrs. Claus was doing story time, and so it was so cute to watch upstairs as she's all in her Mrs. Claus stuff and she's reading stories. And, there was a photo booth that people took advantage of. The food bank had 7 volunteers. Debbie Daughtry was kind of leading the charge on that made all these goodies that were for sale by donation. So if you didn't want to donate, you could still help yourself to a cookie. But from the feedback I've heard, people were very generous with those treats. And it was just, I stood out on the sidewalk because we had someone say to us, people aren't sure if this is a paid for function. So I thought I'm going to direct people in. So I moved a few signs. I see our gingerbread man is here. We had a dancing blow up gingerbread man. Amy was there. And so she's out there dancing on the sidewalk and bringing people in. And I'm watching as these kids are leaving and they've got these smiles on their faces and they're eating the trees from their gingerbread house on their way out. They're eating their projects. And so it was so amazing. And then I went home and changed clothes, but some of the people that put on, they couldn't even go home and change clothes for the evening Jubilee. It sold out. Tickets were $75 a ticket and it sold out. And so then the tree donations, these trees, I mean, the generosity from our community when they're purchasing these trees. And then in the middle of it, we had an anonymous donation of $10,000 matching donation. So, I mean, our community came together. I know I'm kind of rambling, but our community came together in the most amazing way. And to me, that's Lake Stevens, not the things we've seen over the last month. But to me, what I saw last weekend, that's Lake Stevens. And so sorry, I'm kind of rambling on about because it was such an amazing experience. We have booked the mill, or they have booked the mill for the next 2 years. And so this is going to happen again for at least 2 more years. I plan on volunteering again. And hopefully for those that missed it, they'll get a chance to come out next year.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Dorset.
Thank you. Just want to extend a warm welcome to Councilman Packard. It'd be wonderful working with you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Council. I've had to really step back from social media over the last year. It's been more negative, I think, in a lot of ways. And so for my own well-being, have stepped back, which I think has been good for my mental well-being, but not great because I hadn't heard about the Festival of Trees until after it happened. I got to see beautiful pictures and glad that many of you were able to be a part of it, and hoping that we as council maybe can think about how to spread the word so that our community knows about it, even if you're not on social media. I'm glad that it was such a successful event. I think we are better when we can come together and support our community for sure. Next week, I'll be attending the Alliance for Housing Affordability. As you might remember, they have new leadership and sort of a new format. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that and understanding how that group is going to better support the participating cities. I am available for the next council meetings, so I'll be here. And I just want to let folks know I'm having technical difficulties with my device, so I'm looking at my phone because that's where my packet is. So I'll be on my phone throughout the meeting. So just want to make sure that's clear. And that's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ewing.
I'm surprised we didn't hear it. The Lake Stevens girls volleyball won the state championship, in case you hadn't heard, coming back from 2 sets down to win. They have the state player of the year, who's attending a scholarship at the University of Oregon. So kudos to them and their coach for just phenomenal effort to make that happen. And they even endured a 2-hour bus breakdown in Bellevue, so they didn't get back.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
And I just want to counter one thing that Gary said. I do want to appreciate and respect Sabina. I see that she's here tonight. At the candidate forum, she was the only candidate that I heard throughout the whole campaign that acknowledged the good work the council has done over the last 4 years, and specifically called out Kim Daughtry, which super classy, Sabina. I respect that a lot, that she was able to specifically acknowledge, and so thank you for that. So I attended a Just Serve conference last week, and so I think this is a significantly underutilized opportunity that we have for the city of Lake Stevens. So we're talking about service stuff. So here's who their board of directors is. Vice President of American Red Cross, the CEO of Catholic Community Services, CEO of American Services Commissions, CEO of Rotary International, the founder of the Doblin Group, CEO of Israel Aid, President of Med Global, CEO of World Food Program, President of National VOAD, and the former president of the National League of Cities of Tacoma Mayor, Victoria Woodards. Phenomenal woman. If you haven't met her, she's amazing. So they are present in 18 countries, currently with more on the way. Argentina, Australia, Austria, Canada, Chile, France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Mexico, New Zealand, Philippines, Portugal, Puerto Rico, Spain, Switzerland, UK, and the United States. Heard from the board or the president, from the president's cabinet of Chile. Just Serve is their national service arm. So they use that as a country for their service opportunities. They also shared a story about two women that talking about the service that some people talk about that were neighbors that hated each other for 15 years. And they couldn't even agree on why they hated each other. They just did. Until there was an event that required them to have to serve. And anyway, it was neat to watch them come together as they decided to help each other with serve to overcome that. And so the goal of that is to create unity. For those who are familiar with the parable of the Good Samaritan, so I'll just note that talking about social media, received a racist campaign thing earlier this week during targeting one of the Black people supporting me in my campaign. It was really disgusting. But I respect Martin Luther King, and I've been to the mountaintop, his speech the day before he was killed. And he said this: the first question the priest and the Levi asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan reversed the question, if I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? So he looked outward to help that person. And I'm going to finish up here with they had a dignity index that they presented for service. And they used this to rate all the political, so social media from Lake Stevens community page would probably be number one. They are not even human. It is our moral duty to destroy them before they destroy us. That is number one, as opposed to the ideal, which is each one of us is born with inherent worth, so we treat each other with dignity no matter what. So the intent was to get people to get from wherever they were on that scale, and get them to number 8. And so I hope that we can use service as an opportunity. One last thing in honor of Kim Daughtry, and part of the Lake Stevens Youth Advisory Council, there are 300 chapters of high school, of just serve at high schools in the United States. And to see the work that these young people are doing is really extraordinary. So even though the Youth Advisory Council is not a direct part of Lake Stevens part, and as a council member, we're really part of that we help to make happen, that might be something to consider, because the high school students have a requirement for service hours, and they could use that as an option. So just putting that out there for everyone. So thank you. That's a little.
And anything for Caitlin to note as far as upcoming availability or family plans, conflict, anything like that?
Speed deterrent.
Okay. Councilmember Packard.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you for the welcome. I don't have any business. I will be out of country on business travel on the 9th.
Okay. All right. And everyone's in the room. Okay, so that's everybody. No one online. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Cool. Thanks. Great comments by everybody. Appreciate all the work. The Tree Festival Jubilee was great. I attended, and to kind of put things into perspective, I think that the food bank budget is just under $500,000 a year. So to raise 90,000 is on an event that wasn't really even, I mean, it was planned for the year, but it wasn't part of their budget, is a great injection of cash into that organization that, Anthony obviously will take any kind of donation to the food bank, but he can really make cash go a long ways in our community. So great event, and thank you all who put it on. It was a great.
So something that's kind of impressive about that event, other than the fact of how much they raised, was that less than 10% was expenditures
of the event.
There was so many donations, et cetera, that came in that they only had to expend less than 10% to put that thing on, less than 10% of what they raised.
Yeah. And a big shout out.
Usually an event like that takes about 40%.
Yeah. Big shout out to Rustic Cork, who provided all the food for it. And it wasn't like a little bit of food. It was
No, they
a lot
filled
of
this room.
This whole place
with food.
full. Yeah, it was great.
And it probably should be mentioned that Anthony and the food bank were also involved. So they had their big box truck to deliver the trees the day after. They had tables and table coverings that, you know, belong to the food bank. So they also stepped up, helped set up, pull down and deliver trees.
Yep, it's great. So yeah, I attended that event last week. I had a really cool opportunity. I was selected amongst 29 other mayors across the country of all shapes and sizes to go back to DC and attend what was called the U.S. Global Leaders Coalition Mayors Summit for a super packed day and a half. We listened to briefings from the Council on Foreign Relations on China and the Ukraine and the Middle East and Latin America. And what was really interesting and wonderful about each one of those topics was not only did they talk about what's going on in those situations, but then brought it home to why we as mayors should care about what's going on in China and what's going on with our relationship with China and Ukraine and different areas. And it was very interesting conversations about local impacts of global events. And it was just a lot of really cool opportunities that myself and Cassie Franklin from Everett were both selected from Washington to go back for that. So very good event. And today was one of my favorite days of being the mayor. Every semester I go into, it's a reason why my voice is tore up. Yeah, so once a semester I go in and talk to all the civics classes in one day. It ends up being 5 straight hours of Brett Gailey literally talking the entire time and answering questions of our great high school seniors. And it is a great opportunity to really get a pulse on what our young people are thinking about and talking about in the city. It's a great opportunity for me as a mayor to be transparent to them in what's going on in the city because they ask questions and good follow-up questions. And I think it also gives me a little insight into, they have to come with questions. So I think that some of those questions were written by their parents, which is wonderful. So it's a great opportunity. So with that, let's move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second to pass the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed?
Sorry, I didn't know the process. I do have some quick questions about the consent agenda. I assumed you were going to ask, is there discussion on the matter? Not had the training. So
We can, yeah, we can open up discussion.
Maybe just a few quick questions. So has the work already been estimated and then the 500K came in direct response to the bid that was given, or we got 500K? Basically, where did 3/4 of a mile come from? Was that all that we could do with 500K? Some of those.
Yeah, so the
details I'm
500K
trying to
on the Bayview Trail planning.
Yes,
we're
please.
talking about.
Yes, please.
Was what was estimated that we needed to get it to 100% bid design. And that's what was asked of our legislative grant for last session. that
Okay.
Awarded. So it was an estimate on what that would cost to do that design engineering to 100%.
Okay. And the design engineering is only that 200% is only for the 3/4 of a mile, that section, or it gets the
It's from
full,
8th to 204.
which is what, sorry, what percentage of the 9.75 miles or whatever?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So that's from 26 to 204. So it's about roughly 2 miles.
Okay.
Sarah is online if you want.
Oh, Sarah online?
Yeah.
Sarah, do we know the percentage of the trail from that section?
Ultimately, I'm just trying to scope out, I again, just don't have the background. What is the total project cost looking like? What percentage of that comes from us versus future grant opportunities, et cetera? But
Right, so what happens, so a little education on that. So in any of these projects, we do a design engineering and we get to 100%. And actually, when we get to about 60, then we start looking for funds to actually turn the shovels. So, and once we are at that 100% design, then we have a really good estimate of what that project's gonna cost. And then we can be looking for sources, whether that's internal sources or other grant sources, whatever that might be. But we can't go for those sources until we're at about 60% design engineering on a project.
Okay.
Let's see, where are we at?
That was discussion on the.
And also just.
That was discussion on the
just-
motion we already voted on.
Yeah, and also just moving forward, if there's something on consent that you want to move to discussion or move to action, you can make a motion to move that off of consent and move it into
At
the
the approval
agenda.
of the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think we already passed it, so we're not gonna revote it.
That's great.
But, good questions. So with that, let's go to the public hearing on the 2026 annual budget. We're gonna have a public hearing, number 2. We've already done 1. And, this will be ordinance 1205. I'm gonna go ahead and, open the public hearing and turn the floor over to Barb.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Before you tell me I need to anyway. I know how this. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is public hearing number 2 on the 2026 proposed budget. This presentation is going to be a very condensed version of the previous presentation, as the proposed budget hasn't changed since the first public hearing. Again, this is a look at our standard budget process timeline. We're coming to the end of the 2026 budget process. Here you can see we're at our final step on the timeline, which is final public hearing and budget adoption in November. As mentioned previously, our 2026 budget priorities of public safety, information technology, and maintaining infrastructure and programs align with our long-term strategic priorities. And this again is a look at our citywide budget by fund. This is what you see in the budget ordinance. It includes beginning balances, revenues, expenditures, and ending balances. Again, no changes have been made since the public hearing on November 18th. The estimated beginning balance of all funds is just under $54.3 million. The revenues are approximately 51.1. The expenses are budgeted just under 66.5 million, and that leaves us an ending fund balance citywide at $38.9 million. There are 2 new positions proposed in the 2026 budget, including an IT applications data analyst and a traffic engineer. Again, both positions will further the city's strategic priorities of public safety and securing our information infrastructure. And the traffic engineer position will be 100% funded through traffic safety program revenues as reimbursables. This is the proposed organizational chart for 2026. There are a total of 137 full-time, 3 part-time, 14 seasonal and intern positions, not including our 8 elected officials. The 2 new positions are color-coded in green, as you can see, under the IT department and the Public Works Department. This again is a summary of our non-capital projects and purchases. List hasn't changed since the previous public hearing. And then again, the chart shows the expenses by fund. And generally, we're looking at the general fund, so 163,500. That again continues the support for the Senior Center and the Volunteers of America, both set at the same levels as the prior year. And the remaining increases in the general fund is mostly operating costs due to increased number of parks and park amenities. And this is a summary of our citywide capital projects by fund. This also has not changed since presented at the first public hearing. Majority of the projects are captured in capital project funds, including transportation benefit fund, traffic and park mitigation, real estate excise tax funds, as well as stormwater, sidewalk, and facilities capital funds. The projects included in the general fund are budgeted from one-time pandemic recovery funds and not the operating fund. Those include local and match funding for the historical museum and the municipal campus. The projects allocated to the street fund include pavement preservation, striping, and additional traffic safety projects. And as mentioned previously, we have more than 14 million in grant funds and continue seeking more to reduce our local portion of the project costs. And I know that was brief, but that concludes the final 2026 budget public hearing presentation. As you can see, the next step would be to take public comment and council discussion, and then we would recommend approving the second and final reading of the budget ordinance 1205 and adoption of the 2026 budget.
Before I do public comments, let's actually open it up to council questions for our staff.
So I guess I'll start out. So we had a presentation that said our sales tax revenue is going to increase 0.5% in next year. And yet I see the assumptions for the budget call for a 4% year over year sales tax increase. So help me reconcile that, because that's significant. And I'm not sure where with the economy being what it is, locally and, statewide and federally, that seems very rosy, for lack of a better term.
Our retail sales tax, we're estimated to increase about approximately 1%, and then our construction sales tax is intended to increase more. Our construction sales tax is increasing due to the school district buildings, the library buildings, the anticipated additional retail that's looked to go into the 20th Street and additional areas. So we do still look to 3 to 4% increase over the years in sales tax. And that, like, as I mentioned, that includes retail as well as construction sales tax.
Nathan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a number. I'll try and be brief. On the traffic engineer that you intend to hire, so it's develop and implement the traffic safety program and the traffic calming program is, I'm assuming that is not going to be the duration of their employment. We would keep them on long term. What's the justification for doing that after those things are developed and implemented? I don't anticipate they need to be maintained at that same rate.
I believe they will need to be maintained. The program is ongoing. As the money comes in, the program needs to be expanded into, it's not just a 20-year CIP, it's the actual engineering product what they're producing throughout the process.
Can I piggyback on that, Nathan? Earlier in the discussions on the budget, when I saw the new positions, I questioned, especially with the city's budget, maybe, not having the money we would like to see it have, if it was more wise to 1099, to contract that out. And that would save the city money when it comes to, benefits, employment taxes, all of those things, especially, when, Nathan was saying, that they're developing something. Is there a reason why we're creating a new position at this particular time versus contracting that out? And then when it comes to maintaining it, if we need to create a position at that point in time, it wouldn't be at the same level, I wouldn't think, as someone who's developing it.
And Mayor Gailey could probably speak to that a bit better. He was a big part of that, but I believe we did actually look at whether or not we should do a consultant. And the idea was we would be losing all of that inherent knowledge of putting the program together that we wouldn't have if we had created the position, hired the position, they created the program, they know the program inside and out and what that looks like versus hiring a consultant, getting a product put on the shelf, and then trying to hire somebody or get our current staff to actually work through that process.
And so the consultant wouldn't train and have workshops to explain what they're suggesting?
Not generally. I don't know that generally we have consultants that do that.
So
It's not a software training. It's actually a program.
You guys are talking about the traffic engineer.
Yes,
right?
traffic safety.
Right. So that traffic engineer is going to build the traffic camera program, right? And then that traffic engineer builds that program and monitors it. That's not something you just build and then let go, right? Like someone has to administrate it, keep the contract going. That's a portion of their position. The other portion of that position is we get inundated by actually really good ideas on traffic safety within the city, but we don't have the staff to run those. I would love a speed hump on my street. I would love a stop sign, right? Well, those projects are stacking up. And so if we have this traffic engineer on scene, on staff, right? Then that person not only runs the traffic camera program, but then takes the money from that program to fix these problems that our citizens are asking for. And So whether we have someone on staff or Aaron and someone on staff is continually contracting someone to do that, like we're gonna lose time frame on that. And it's gonna be a more expensive program than if we just have someone on staff who runs the program and as well does the engineering on the traffic safety ideas that our citizens come to us with. Does that make sense? It's gonna be very onerous if we try to contract that out. Every time we get a call, hey, can you look at this? It's gonna take months versus a traffic engineer who can immediately look at our eds with traffic safety and go, yeah, we can do that, or we can't do that. Yeah, we can do that. Let's get it done. So it'll be a much quicker turnaround. And then that person's salary is to be paid out of the traffic camera program. Is that,
Yep,
You
the
good?
answer's fine. Yeah, and I appreciate that the salary will be paid by the tax, right? So that's not coming out of the general fund.
correct?
Wait,
Just to clarify, traffic camera program, not tax.
Not a tax.
Sure, sorry. The
Just, yeah, I want to make that
program,
clear.
the
Yeah.
program will pay for,
From the fines of speeding in our school zones.
yes, the program will pay for the engineer. It's it can be self-sustaining.
Correct.
Okay.
So the traffic engineer, would he have any responsibility to be doing traffic engineering on some of the developments that are happening?
I don't see why not, if they have time for it, but I think that our main focus is overall safety. If there is a safety look at a development that's going in, I think that would be applicable to this person, right? Can they look at a new subdivision going in, and is it prudent that you put in raised crosswalks, or does it prudent that you put in a raised speed hump, right? Or whatever it might be, the right lightings. I don't see why this person couldn't take a look at that, being that specialist in it.
But what about going further into where you have a development coming in and it's going to increase traffic in an area and you're looking at maybe putting a roundabout in, or you're looking at how is that? I mean, we're looking at level of services. Is that traffic engineering going to look at level of service for some of the developments that are coming?
I don't know that would be necessarily this person's purview. We have other planners and engineers in public works that would look at that.
I would say the further away from the city's traffic safety program you get, the further away you're going to get from the traffic safety program paying for that
Paying for
position.
that person, yeah.
So if you start thinking developments, then you start thinking into the permit funds versus traffic safety program.
All right, that makes sense.
Do you have more comments, Nathan?
I'll let you go ahead and come back.
I was just gonna say on the traffic engineer, when you get down to a point of putting stop signs in, rumble bars, whatever, safety improvements, I think it would behoove the city to have a licensed traffic engineer sign off on those things rather just a general civil engineer for
Yeah.
liability purposes.
Yeah.
And then my second comment is based on the traffic consultant study that we got last week. I wouldn't want to defer everything to a consultant. Case in point. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we get really good ideas, but a lot of times we can't implement them. So for a great example is this, right? We got the great idea a couple months ago to, and it's kind of been an idea out there, but do we do a full three-way stop at the south end of the lake, right? At East Lake Shore Drive and South Lake Stevens, right? So, and it's a great idea and it's probably very applicable, but we just can't go out and throw stop signs up the next day after a great idea. Like it has to be engineered, it has to be looked at, and does it fit the requirements, right? And the reason for that is because after you engineer it and after you install it, when there's accidents, there's a justification process that you went through, and you just can't throw up safety things if it's not justified. So that's why you need a certified traffic engineer to be able to stamp these things and say, yep, that does need a stop sign, or no, it doesn't, and this is why.
So really quick, Nathan, this is the perfect time to ask you questions, and I know you're being asked to wrestle with a lot here in a very short time. To budget the time on the hearing, roughly how many questions do you have total?
That's a good.
Which, it's fine, just approximately.
2 or 3 more.
Perfect. Okay.
Good, Nathan.
So I guess, and I'll share my motivation, right? So my concern about the budget is largely connected to the general fund and the usage of the reserve in the general fund. So again, my comment, okay, the traffic program pays for itself. So, that doesn't impact it. So I'm less concerned about that, right? And so, so one question I have, we talked about the property tax last week, 2 weeks ago. So in the breakdown of the property tax, it's 86% going into the general fund and 14% going into the street fund. I guess that was 28%, that went down to 14. Why does it need to be any? Why can't we put all of that money into the general fund? It's close to $1 million. Again, if we have other funds to do capital projects, streets, et cetera, maybe we can't do as much as we'd like to do, but at least we can do some stuff. We can save $1 million in the general fund and avoid other consequences.
I think we kind of had this discussion a little bit, and I know Aaron would probably, Director Halverson would probably want to weigh in on that. It's based on levels of service in the street fund. So it would, we have talked about that the street fund now has, they have a utility tax that goes in there, the sewer utility tax, as well as the garbage utility tax and property tax. There has been some discussion amongst other cities, like how much money do you put from the general fund into the street fund? And on average, from the ones I've gathered, the ones who've answered my call, I've heard between 3% and 6% per year. We're putting 13% of our total general fund revenues into street funds. And it's based on the level of service expectation of our pavement, of our sidewalks, striping, all of that. And so it's based on the level of service recommendation or expectation and council's decision to fund the general fund like that. It would definitely be a reduction in levels of service in the street fund if we were to reduce more.
Can I get clarification? So is it a reduction in our ability to just do maintenance? Is that our only maintenance bucket, or does some of that money go toward future capital projects? Because that's different than level of service, right? We could just choose not to do some capital projects as soon because we don't have that $1 million a year, right? Versus we can't fill the potholes, we can't repair XYZ.
A little of both. When you think of pavement preservation, it can be considered a capital project, and we do have about $200,000 per year coming out of local funds for pavement preservation. And then we passed the sewer utility tax in order to continue that program and to help with the pavement and the the manholes and that sort of thing. So those funds are currently specifically for that purpose. There are, as I mentioned, about $200,000 of local street fund money that goes into that could be reduced. There's also, I believe it's about $100,000 per year in striping, but I would consider that maintenance. And then I believe the majority of everything else in that fund is maintenance, except some, I think, safety program type things the mayor was just talking about. When somebody comes to us now, we don't have a separate funding source for those studies and to actually do those intersection improvements and that sort of thing. So that does come out of the street fund because it's not part of a capital improvement plan, which means it can't come out of a capital fund. So it has to come out of operating funds.
Okay.
Can I get a clarification on something you just said? You said striping is not part of maintenance?
It is.
It is
It is part of maintenance.
I was hoping I misheard that.
Yeah, we would consider that maintenance.
Yeah, so I guess it would be helpful for me to see what is the year out projection of that street fund? How much do we actually need to maintain a level of service, or at least a level of service that we think is reasonable, but divert as much of that funds into the general fund as possible, and figure out what that looks like. Is it another, if you went from 14 down to 3%, for example, right, that's $750,000 or something like that, right? That's a significant chunk year over year that would go towards that general fund and make that much more sustainable.
And I know this is something that council's been talking about for a number of years, attempting to reduce the allocation of property tax to the street fund. I know Director Halverson has been working on the numbers for this I mean, we just removed about $1 million from his fund. And so he's working through the process of seeing what that looks like on his operating side now. And so I think it's going to take him a little time to actually work through the process to see what does this actually mean? What are we going to reduce? Where is this going to be people? Is this going to be pavement preservation and those sort of things? So he's already looking at that as he's going to feel this reduction as it is now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, ultimately, my thought is, okay, if, for example, I was to say we need to bring the budget back $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, right? Ideally, that's not people, right? We're not letting people go. And so how do we do that? Well, in my mind, it's get as much stuff into the general fund as possible. If we don't need it to go somewhere else, don't have it go somewhere else. If we would have to let go of public works people as part of that, again, I'm not saying, hey, got to do this, right? I would want to see the ramifications of doing that, but I'd like to see the numbers that say, what could we afford to do without having a significant impact there?
And we are working through the financial forecast for the street fund as well. Before we made this change, they were actually doing a really good job leveling out. And then we decided to help the general fund a bit this year. And so they are now have that downward curve the same as the general fund does. So we've kind of gone back to even between the general fund and the street fund on that downward trajectory. So they're going to have to start tightening their belts as well.
Okay.
So something to think about there, Nathan, is by passing the budget tonight doesn't preclude us from doing a budget amendment sometime next year if we see that revenues are not the way we want to do and we want to do some of that shifting. So is this budget perfect? Absolutely not. Is it something that we can flex after the year? Absolutely. Just something to think about.
On that, timing wise,
Yeah.
we just have to have it passed before the end of the year.
Exactly. You
So-
have to have a balanced budget passed by the end of the year.
Do we have to have 2 more public hearings if we make an adjustment?
No,
No.
you're not allowed to have 2 more public hearings. This is your final public hearing. We can
Okay.
continue this public hearing until next Tuesday, if you wish, and that would be the final public hearing of the year.
Okay.
What else? What other question you got?
This one may be a small one. Again, looking at personnel and dollars, the interns that we have, they came, they were great. Do we have an estimate of how much that costs us on salary and benefits to have them come in?
I don't have that on hand. That would definitely be something that our HR director has tracked.
Trying to think of the number.
We've seen it.
I don't remember, but it was definitely it was out of salary benefit savings from this year, but
Yeah, so what we did with those folks is there were several positions that weren't hired during the year.
Sure.
And we took those savings to pay for the interns.
Sure, but it's still dollars that we don't
Yes.
have, right? And so again, if we're trying to avoid laying off permanent staff, right? In my mind, the first thing we choose to do is just not bring in interns and save real dollars.
and these intern positions in 2026 are not funded. So again, these are unfunded intern positions. The seasonal positions are funded. Those are your seasonal parks, your seasonal street, seasonal facility
Sure.
positions. Those are funded, but your intern positions are not funded. And it would be the mayor and city administrator to decide whether or not to actually allow our funds, our saved funds from other things to be used towards that. But I'm sure they will take into account your opinion on that.
Okay, so to clarify, so the interns are not allocated in the 2026 budget. At some point in the spring, you would come to city council and say, hey, do we want to bring in interns? And then we would approve it later on.
So the positions are approved, there is no funding. So they're unfunded positions.
So to answer your question, no, we wouldn't have to, but I do.
You do,
I come back and say, hey,
Sure.
let's do these interns, yes or no?
sure.
We
Do
don't
we wanna
need any
save money
additional
or do we wanna
funding.
Get some
Right.
projects done with interns
Okay.
from save money.
Okay.
Right.
And I think my last question is on the IT. There's the 900 something thousand for a data center that
Yeah.
I just didn't remember that coming up previously. Can you help me understand what that is? Is that something is a multiple,
Yeah, we rolled forward a couple of times for projects.
this is multiple years in the making, and this is something we would do this year and not need to do something substantial like this for a while. I mean.
Yeah, no, not really. So we've been operating. So we've been operating on a backup system that we've had when we had a major failure. So we used to have a primary and secondary, and so we're currently on our primary right now, which is, needs to be, augmented with the secondary. So that's what this is all about, to make sure that we have a fully redundant, data center. So this was rolled forward, and mainly because part of our grant that we got a grant for cybersecurity stuff, and part of that money is for taking on some of our workloads for our security tooling. And so we wanted to make sure this was in place before we got that. So that's why it was kind of rolled forward.
Okay. I will ask one more. This is mostly.
We want to make sure that you're comfortable.
I know, I did. This is mostly for you, the mayor. There's some in your mayor's statements or whatever, right? Your opening comments as part of the budget. There's comments in there about sustainable bids, a sustainable budget, healthy, balanced. I'll just say I'm struggling with some of those terms. If you can just help me understand your definition of sustainable, why you would say this is sustainable.
Well, I think this year's budget, is it sustainable in year 3, 4, 5? Probably not. Because is it sustainable for the next year or two while we work on revenues, that sort of thing? Maybe. Agreed. Nathan, it's not the best budget we have in the world, right? I agree.
Okay.
I would say it seems like a much better budget than we've had in the past years, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, not trying to suggest that it's bad. I'm not trying to suggest the work wasn't put in. I saw the work. I appreciate the work. Yeah, these were just questions I haven't been able to ask, and so I have the opportunity to ask them today.
Cool. What else you got?
That's all for today.
What else we got?
So what he's really saying is he's still in power
Yeah.
of his seat.
I just want to say I appreciate your questions. I appreciate you taking the interest in doing the work since you didn't have an actual voice, and now you're sitting at the table and need to help make a decision. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Good question.
And I appreciate you reaching out a couple of times and getting additional information as needed. So.
All right, so with that, I will open the floor to public comments. Is there any public comments on just this public hearing subject? Is there anybody online?
If anyone online would like to speak to this specific public hearing, please raise your digital hand and I'll bring you in. No.
None. And anybody in the audience wish to?
Amy's got a question. I can jump.
Only if she puts her gingerbread costume back on.
Gingerbread.
Great. I'll go ahead and close public comments then. This portion of the hearing. Any further comments, Barb?
No, Council, I appreciate it.
Okay, and then any further questions from council?
Just from a historical perspective, we have a lot of deferred maintenance as far as our infrastructure. And that is primarily the reason why I'm trying to keep some money in the general budget to pay for this stuff, because it's only going to get more expensive. And obviously the new council can do what they may, adjust things throughout the year and so forth, but keep in mind, we do have to maintain our infrastructure, and that costs dollars.
Yep. Absolutely. Is there any discussion, deliberation amongst council members on this budget?
I have some comments. And this is my last, I guess, time to voice my opinion on this. So September 30th meeting, we had a proposal to cut 4 police officer positions and cut 10% from the police. Last week, we had a proposal to eliminate one of the key tools that the police use to help keep our communities safe. So the training, tools, equipment, and personnel are part of the police, help keep us the 10th safest city in the state. And that's not something that just happens. That's a commitment from the majority of the council, publicly and privately supporting public safety. So to Nathan's point, the flexibility in that is I see with this budget being unsustainable, that the appetite to either reimagine, defund, or abolish the police is very real. In local elections, some very prominent defund and abolish the police candidates have been elected. Some had very little to no political experience at all, and that was their platform. There's some of that sentiment here in our community. I don't know what the new council will do, but I have concerns that public safety, given that it's going, because it represents 50% of our general fund approximately, that's just going to be something that's going to be looked at really keenly. People are doing that. So I have concerns. I have significant concerns with that. I think that I don't believe that we can just magically wave our wand and get revenue to increase the way that we'd like. Any of the areas that we have lack significant infrastructure. 20th Street lacks proper infrastructure, as far as where we want to develop stuff, and the industrial area lacks it, right? So I'm the only one, I believe, in the 6 years I've been a council that's ever voted no on a budget. And I wish that we had better options, I guess.
Yeah. I agree with much of what you're saying. One of the things, one of the flags that I need to fly this year in the legislature is the state needs to think about really sharing back a lot of the taxes that they're sucking out of our communities, and sharing back to the locals, because we're seeing those headlines across Snohomish County and across our state of cities really, really having financial issues, right? And if the state continues to tax our people to the max of max and not share any of that back to the cities, there'll be a day where the cities will start throwing the keys to the county and saying, hey, we tried, right? And so I think that flag really needs to be raised this year with our state legislators, that we've got to get some of this money back into our communities, because ultimately, these citizens don't really care so much about some of the ideological things they're paying for, but what they do care about is their pothole not getting filled, right? And that gets done by us. So.
Well, and this is the only thing we do to raise revenue is raise taxes. I was the only one to vote against the sewer tax increase, right? Everyone else voted yes. All these other people voted to increase the tax. Now it's up to $7. Snohomish County Council just doubled our property tax portion of our tax bill on a 3-2 vote. We now have a sewer tax going up. You have the CEO of Microsoft saying that we are destroying our state with the tax structure. He's not exactly a far right person. He's the opposite of that, right? And he's saying that the tax structure is destroying Microsoft, it's destroying our local economy. So we can't just tax our way out of this.
Agreed. Any other deliberation discussion?
Just a quick clarification. What is the difference between approving the second and final reading? What does that mean to vote yes for that versus no, versus yes or no on the ordinance itself?
So the council action on this is to approve the annual budget, public hearing number 2. You can deny it. It depends what the motion is. And then, or we can continue to next week and continue the same discussion next week.
So can I clarify that?
Yeah, that's not matching up with those 2 bullet points. That's what I'm confused.
Let me clarify that. But you would approve the second and final reading of the budget ordinance, or you would continue it to next week? And then passage of the ordinance is a separate action.
Okay.
We just generally take it all as one.
Well, so
we generally take it all as one. You're approving the second and final reading of the budget ordinance, and then there's passage of the budget ordinance.
Those are 2 separate motions.
Okay.
They're 2 separate motions.
However,
We generally just take them all as one, but
continue it, then we don't vote on Local 5.
and conversely, it wouldn't make sense to approve it, but then not pass the ordinance.
That doesn't, no.
No.
Okay.
you can approve the reading and then
You could-
decline or abstain from passage of the actual ordinance.
Would it be fair to say approving the second reading is just saying, okay, public, we have
We
officially
have
completed
read
the second
We have
reading.
read the ordinance, yes.
Yes.
It has been read in a public hearing.
We've checked the box
Checked
and
the
then we
box.
move on to actually voting
Yes.
on the budget.
You check the legal box.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right, so with that, let's, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this
Do we need to close the public hearing?
I'll close the public hearing.
closed.
We'll continue it.
I was gonna ask a
Oh.
question.
Circus out there.
Well, there's troubles in the room.
You guys are gonna make me break out my gavel. I can see that.
We had a gavel this whole time?
I actually have one. I don't ever bring it because we don't. need
You're
it.
gonna have
You guys
to
are gonna
start.
Make me go get it.
So Mayor, Mayor,
wow.
Let's go ahead.
I do think you need the motion to either choose to close or continue. Yeah. So you're correct. I'm sorry.
The public hearing.
Yes.
So we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Aye.
Any discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, now can I get a motion on ordinance 1205?
Wait, no, do we have to do the reading? We just closed the hearing. Now we have to do the reading, then we do the ordinance?
Right.
I move we approve the second and final reading of budget ordinance 1205.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to what Kim said. Is there any discussion
Reading.
on the final reading? Is there any discussion? All's in favor?
Excuse me
No,
a second.
no, just-
You said also ordinance
Final
1205.
reading of budget ordinance 1205.
Okay,
Right,
thank you.
so.
So
we're
this is just the
approving
approval
the final
of the
reading
reading.
of the budget.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we have one aye or one no.
Okay.
And now can we get a motion to pass ordinance 12?
Ask for a roll call vote, please.
Yes, we need a roll call vote on that last vote. All's in favor?
No, on the 1205 adopting the budget.
Oh, on that? Okay.
Yeah, I was the only no vote on that one.
Okay, so I need a motion on, hold on, everybody. Give me a motion on passing ordinance 1205.
I will so move, I'll put forward a motion to pass ordinance number 1205 and adopt the 2026 budget as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. So the motion on the floor is to pass ordinance 1205, the 2026 annual budget. I have a request for a roll call vote on it. Caitlin,
Okay.
or wait a second,
Is
any
there
discussion on the motion?
Mayor, can you tell us what next steps would be if the vote were to be no?
Yeah, so if the vote is no, then the next steps are, we come back, because we have to have a balanced budget passed. This is a balanced budget. It's not the perfect budget. So if this is a no vote tonight, then we come back next week and then those who vote no have to figure out like what's going to get them to a yes. And I think at this point, that means cutting services and cutting people. So that's the hard discussion that we then have to start having next week. And continue to have until we get to a balanced budget again. That's acceptable by a majority of the council members. So is this a perfect budget? No. Is it something that we can continue to work through this next year? Absolutely.
I would remind my fellow council members that a budget in itself is not static. You can make amendments throughout the year to adjust for economic conditions if so needed. And so this is a starting point. And for lack of having any other identifiable changes, I would request that we do adopt this ordinance.
I would also piggyback on that, Councilman Peter Sagan. I think that if we think about where we are tonight versus where we were at the first presentation of the budget, I think several of us had requests, had concerns, had questions. I think the staff have bent over backwards, making changes to that original budget, bringing back information so that we could make an informed decision. We have gotten all of the information we've asked for and then some. And we've seen changes happen because of the questions that we've asked and because of requests that we've made. And so to echo Gary's point, this isn't static. This isn't set in stone. We've seen movement in the right direction. And I look forward to continuing to keep a close eye on things over 2026 and continuing to make amendments as needed.
Absolutely. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess I'm just concerned that there's structural concerns about the budget. If we have more time this calendar year to work on it, I'd like to work on it because I'm afraid that after the calendar year, other stuff comes up, right? And if we don't dedicate time to it, then it doesn't happen. Yeah, we can monitor it, but that's my concern. I don't think that it's a matter of the budget being fine and we just got to make sure it doesn't go bad, bad. I think there are some adjustments that need to be made and I'd like to be intentional about making those while we have the chance as part of this calendar year.
You as a council can set your own agenda.
Fair, but we are in budget season and if we don't have to pass it today, what prevents us from spending more time on it?
I would like to see people comfortable with being in the position to vote on this. What I'm hearing is not that there's a definitive no, but that there are a few more questions and I think everyone needs to feel comfortable in voting one way or another. And if extending it will give us the opportunity to do that, I think that's a valid request.
So I would ask, what are the questions? What are the structural changes you want to make to the budget that you can't do after passing the budget and amendments?
Really quick, can we get into that when the motion is on the table? Like, is
This is
I think it's
discussion.
part of discussion.
Okay.
I'll admit I don't know the answer to that, right? I mean, I proposed, potentially $1 million from the street fund to the general fund. What does that look like? Even $750,000 is non-trivial this year and subsequent 5, 10, whatever years that is, right? That's an example. I think there's more.
So taking your example,
Sure.
they haven't made that determination yet, but they're working on it.
Sure.
Or they're not going to have it done more than likely by next Tuesday. That's something that you could work on after passing this budget and work on backfilling during an amendment, once you have that information.
But only
I appreciate that, but I have the chance to do it now as part of the official budget. I would ask, how quickly could we have that conversation? If it's not by next Tuesday, I have 3 or 4 more Tuesdays. I'm sorry to be obnoxious. I really am. I'm trying to be helpful here.
You're doing your job.
I'm afraid I can't answer that question as that would be in Director Halverson's area and we are talking holiday season. So I don't even know if he works over the next 3 weeks.
So I'll just say, I have yet to see a budget amendment that did not add more, like, say we're going to spend more money. I don't recall a single one, a budget amendment, we're going to reduce spending. And I'm just going to throw this out there. I see an HR technician whose salary exceeds that of the director for the agency I work for. And she's responsible for 1,500 employees. And we have the lowest level HR person that's making more than her. So they have a staff of 4. We have 8 total for 1,500 employees. Do the math on that. So that's just something so just for me, Stan, I will just say that there are areas where I think, I don't think that we've gone deep enough. And I'm not in the day-to-day stuff, but I can just look at some of what I see. And, the fact that our staff, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule here that they pay 0 for the medical. That to me is unacceptable. The median salary is north of $125,000 plus benefits and everything, and not a single dollar is paid towards their benefits. No one in the private sector, no one at Microsoft, no one at Amazon, or the federal, state government, or county government enjoys that benefit. So There is more that can be done. I'm the lone wolf, so I'll be, and so I think there's more that can be done. And my concern, and I'll just put this out there, is that the police department will be the one that bears the brunt of that. And so I would hate to see that happen, because without public safety, we don't have much for our community and our businesses. So.
Any further discussion?
I guess the only thing I will add is budget amendments can work both ways. So I want to be mindful of what not passing this and working on a revised budget would mean, for people in the city. But at the same time, if we move forward on something like that, there is also the option to, come back to it and increase things again if we can support it. And I think that's been my main concern this whole time during the budget, is just, it is a difficult conversation. It is a difficult decision. I just worry that, it's not going to get better. That's my concern.
Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
All right, call for the vote. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Daughtry,
Aye.
Councilmember Peters Hagen,
Aye.
Councilmember Jorstad,
Aye.
Councilmember Ewing,
No.
Councilmember Shipman,
Nay.
Councilmember Donahue,
Nay.
Councilmember Packard.
No.
Okay, the motion does not pass. So with that, what we'll need to do is probably figure out maybe a workshop. I don't think that the idea that we can come back next Tuesday with answers, we just don't have time for it. So we'll probably shoot for a workshop next Tuesday and try to see how we can get you guys there. We got to get there by the end of the year. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Who's the second? Who was my second on adjournment?
I'll be it.
Your first.